Scott,
Guess what day this is, Chris? Come on, you know by now.
Podcast Friday.
That is right, and we have a very special guest, Dan Ison, again a fellow Toastmaster, and
We are milking Toastmasters for all we're worth.
everything's
You're getting your money's worth, and then our money's worth. So shoot.
So Dan, let's start out by just I don't know much about you other than we've been to a bunch of Toastmasters meetings together, and could you just like give us a little bit of background and introduction for yourself?
And you said this is a 4.5 hour podcast. Great. So I'll get started.
Okay, nice.
No, I mean, there's a lot, right? Just in everybody's life, and even the ones that think they don't have a story, they have a story, and that's why I love podcasts. That's why, quite frankly, I love your guys' podcasts because you dive into that and realize that there's something we can learn from every person on the planet. They all know something I don't. Sometimes a lot of things I don't. But I tell you, I went early on in life knowing that I wanted to create, I wanted to build, I wanted to develop, I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. The hiccup, which is a lot like everybody else's hiccup, is, okay, great, now what? So everything from, I worked at Chick-fil-A thinking I wanted to own a Chick-fil-A business, which is great in and of its own right. And then I went and got a business degree, because if you don't know what you're going to do, you get a degree about everything. So you can be the jack of all trades, right? And the truth is, I got out of that and went to corporate because it was secure and it was a big job. And then I realized really how secure that was. And each of these life lessons creates quite frankly, it created the Chris that sits in front of us, and the Scott and the Dan and anybody listening, because that's the journey that we maybe didn't plan, but built us to who we are. And that corporate job that I had to lay other people off, which almost hurt harder than getting laid off myself.
Yeah. It
triggered something to say, never again. I remember walking out and it was dark, and maybe this is not about this, but I'm literally remembering it right now. I walked out of this office building to my truck and audibly saying, and catching myself saying, I will never. I didn't finish it, but I said, I will never allow a man, a woman, entity, a company, corporation, anybody to impact my life and my family's future like I just had to do on behalf of the corporation to those 5 individuals right there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. Again, I know what I want, but I didn't know how. And so that weekend, I actually started, of all the things I could have done, that weekend I started, and a small seed of planted. I worked with a gentleman who owned a business. That business happened to be a janitorial business, of all things, cleaning. And I worked with him, and I said, hey, look, if you don't mind, give me some advice about starting a business. And the first thing he said, don't do it.
Don't do it.
And I'm like, ooh, I'm excited. Yes, sir. I'm ready. What's it gonna be? And he's like, don't do it. I'm like, okay. That was anticlimactic.
Yeah.
But I said, okay. And his name was John. John, if I were going to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
If I were going to do it, would you help me along that thought process? He said, sure. Come over to my home. Let's have some breakfast.
Yeah.
I came over to his home on Saturday morning for another 9 months every week. And I worked in his business, running some of his crews, and he taught me over breakfast every Saturday.
Oh my gosh, there you go.
And those people come in our life, and we don't know sometimes why, but to this day, and he's actually passed away now, but I don't think he'll ever know. Because after that, I moved from Houston to Denver because I like the climate and all that, and I started a business and ran that 25 employees, several crews and trucks all over the place, and ran that for about 12 years, realizing I wanted to build something bigger myself. The end of that taught me something, and then it leads to today. I'll wrap it up. But I realized it wasn't the paychecks that was going to make all the difference in my team's life. It was what to do with the paychecks once they received them.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the raise, or wasn't it wasn't the Friday check on Thursday they needed. It was knowledge.
Yeah.
And work ethic wasn't going to get them there. So
Yeah.
after I sold that, and then I went into finance, and that's where I am today because of those little life lessons and countless more that pay that way.
Yeah. That's pretty darn cool. That's awesome. That
So are you
sounds.
still in the Denver area?
No, I'm in Salt Lake now. So we went up and over the mountain. Now I'm in Salt Lake, same climate, closer to ski resorts.
There you go. That's awesome. That does make a lot of sense because, I mean, the work that you do, that just like makes your lifestyle, but hopefully you can carve out enough money so you can buy assets that will kick off cash that you don't have to work for. Is that sort of what is that? The Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's sort of, I learned
All day
that like
long,
20
Rich
years
Dad,
ago.
Poor Dad, yeah.
Yeah, the game, right? I played that a few times. I'm like, oh, I kind of got the concept at that point. That's
Yeah.
like a great concept.
I think the idea is interesting because when you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you're, on the lower spectrum of making money, finding the $50 or $100 to set aside every week or whatever it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But when you see after 2 years or 4 years that what that money becomes, I think
Yeah.
you get to the point where you're motivated, where now the desire actually drives more of that behavior.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, oh wow, this works, and it's not a quick, fast, easy win. It's not like you're going to buy a Bitcoin at $20 and suddenly you have, $110,000 of Bitcoin. It's going to take time because it's a habit that you have to just reinforce over and over and over again. And I feel so many, at least in the U.S., so many people just never learn it.
Well, it's hard. It requires discipline. So I have a personal story. Like my wife, Shelly, she worked for CBRE. And I think in her retirement fund, she worked there for like 20 years or 25 years or something like that, just part-time. And I think she had like, I don't know, it was like $40,000 in her 401k or something. And she was putting in just the bare minimum match. So we moved to Arkansas like 4 years ago. So I convinced her, crank it up. I want you to crank that thing all the way up. And the market's done well all across COVID. I think last time we checked, she had like 250 grand in there or whatever. And she's like super happy. And she figured out how to get by without that extra money, right? Somehow. Now she's really happy.
Every time your salary goes up, you put a half of it or whatever, a chunk of it into something else.
Yeah,
You're living off this amount of money. Your salary goes up by what percentage? You just add, just have it. Half of it goes to savings and assets, and the other half goes to, increasing your lifestyle, I guess.
That's like a magical thing.
Above all of these things, right? Because these are all things that we've heard of and talked about before, and like 30 years out, you're gonna see the win. You're gonna, yes, obviously yes, compound interest, all that. But the difference that I see, and the difference that we preach, that we teach, that we inspire people by, is yes, 30 years out, but also 30 days out, you can see an impact. Now, not in your portfolio from going from 40 to 250, but something more powerful. And not even 30 days. If we do it right, you can do this.
Oh, yeah.
In 30 minutes.
Yeah.
30 minutes. Why? Because there's so many things in our world we cannot control. Now you got me heated. Now, excited way, in a positive way, right? Because there's so, and I'm thinking of this couple that I just spoke with, right? Like literally right before I got on here, and now they're in my lives, and they're in my brain. They were frustrated. They weren't when I first got on, because they were just like, all right, what are we doing? We're doing a Zoom thing, and okay, fine. But okay, I'll get them distance enough that I can speak.
Okay.
Because turns out there's a podcast, you have to have audio. The truth is that when they came on, they were fighting. If you go to my LinkedIn page right now, right underneath my head, my face and my little header right there, it says, "We help couples fight more." I'm sorry, what? For their future, not each other.
Yeah.
Specifically regarding finances. That's what this couple was. We talked about finances, and instantaneously I could see like a glaze over and a frustration, because it's her fault, or it's his fault, or it's the government, or it's the president's fault. I don't know.